فاتحة. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والعاقبة للمتقين، والجنة للموحدين، والنار للملحدين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيبنا الممجد أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد، وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وغاصب حقوقهم وقاتليهم أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد والفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. صلوات. This ayat of the Holy Quran, which I had the honor of reciting in front of you, can be found in Surah Ma'idah, ayat number 3, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stating that today, on this day, I have perfected my religion upon you and completed my favors or my mercy upon you, and named Islam as your religion. When we look at the Holy Quran, we see that the term Yawm has occurred on numerous occasions in the Holy Quran. Yet every Yawm is related in the Holy Quran or is explained in the Holy Quran. For example, majority of the Yawm that is mentioned in the Quran is Yawm al-Qiyamah, or the day of reckoning. This Yawm, which are in Ayah Ghadir or in this ayat, does not explain the actual event. It only states that this day I have perfected, or I have perfected and completed my favors upon you. Now, historically, the question arises that what was this event? I always say that we have entered in the holy month of Muharram. We must understand that the event of Ashura was not the beginning, but in fact was the end. The foundations of Karbala or Ashura began in one way on the day of Ghadir, when the Holy Prophet announced to the world who his successor is. Or if we go further back, we can say that the seeds of Karbala were laid in Da'wat al-Ashira, when the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam invited his families and his family members to a gathering to announce Islam. Yet when it comes to this ayat, we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not state that I have completed Islam. He says that I have perfected Islam. What he does state is that I have completed my mercy or my favors upon you. But we must understand that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited. We cannot limit anyone. When we look at the mercy of Allah is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We understand that the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can never be limited, nor can they ever be completed. If that was the case, then the question arises that how is it that we are in existence today? That everything that we see around us that allows us to exist is because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, the mercy of Allah is not limited. But in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is stating that He has completed His mercy and His favors upon us. Now we understand that He has completed His favors upon us by announcing the wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. That He has completed His mercy upon us through Amir al-Mu'mineen, and therefore the same way that we cannot limit the favors or the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can also never limit Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. That the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is limitless, Amir al-Mu'mineen is also limitless according to our understanding, according to our intellect. Now there is a term of ghulu. What is ghulu? Ghulu is exaggeration. That where a person reaches their limit and then you further go above that limit, it is classified as ghulu. Salawat. My apologies, I thought I had put the phone on silent. Salawat. That the same way that when myself, I have certain limitations. My characteristics are limited. But if you exaggerate above those characteristics of mine, then you have committed the ghulu. In regards to Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and the 14 ma'asumeen, not just Amir al-Mu'mineen, but all 14 of the ma'asumeen alayhi salam. Ghulu comes into existence the minute we attribute the characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into the Ahlul Bayt. Or we raise the Ahlul Bayt onto the level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is where we come under ghulu. But Amir al-Mu'mineen, in his own words, when he was asked to explain himself, Amir al-Mu'mineen states that my level is that I am above creation of mankind, creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I am lower than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Ahlul Bayt, they are not normal human beings like me and you. They may be in the physical sense, but they are far above us. That we cannot and we will never be able to understand the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. That little that we do understand is very minute in regards to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. That everything that we see in regards to Amir al-Mu'mineen, if we wish to understand Amir al-Mu'mineen, we must understand that we must make our minds and intellect limitless in regards to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. If we try to understand the Ahlul Bayt through our limited knowledge, through our limited mindset, then we will never be able to show that respect to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the Holy Quran, the ayat states, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ, that the Holy Prophet is nothing but a prophet. Therefore, every aspect of the life of the Holy Prophet is that from a prophetic message, from a prophetic mission. And it's exactly the same in regards to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. If we wish to understand Imamat and the Ahlul Bayt, then the best dua or the ziyarah to recite and so that we are able to understand is Ziyarat al-Jami'ah. If we wish to understand the Ahlul Bayt, how does Ziyarat al-Jami'ah start? Assalamu alayka ya Ahlul Baytin Nubuwah. That salutations upon whom? Members of, not the Prophet. It does not say Nabi, it says Nabuwah. Therefore, it is not, we are not sending our salutations upon the house of the Prophet or the members of the Prophet. We're sending our salutations upon the house of prophethood. Of not just one prophet, but of that of 124,000 prophets. Why? Because as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Khatam al-Nabiyyin. He's the seal of all 124,000 prophets. Therefore, the relationship of the Ahlul Bayt to the Prophet is that of prophethood and imamat. This is why when we state that, the Holy Prophet would stand up out of respect for his daughter Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayhi. That act was not that of a father rising out of respect for his daughter, but that act was of a prophet rising out of respect for Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayhi. Salawat. And we must understand that if we wish, our sole purpose on earth is the worship and the servitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the servitude and the worship are numerous. But the best servitude and the worship of Allah, it can only be done through the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That we emulate the Ahlul Bayt in every aspect of life. I believe it was from the same minbar where I stated that, especially for the youth, that when we look at role models, our children look at towards famous personalities. They either look at world leaders or sports figures or scientists, and that is who they look at, keep as their role models. But I always say that teach our children to keep the Ahlul Bayt as their role models. Because if you keep the Ahlul Bayt as your role models, you'll not become like the Ahlul Bayt, but you'll become like those companions of the Ahlul Bayt who are alive for eternity. You'll not become Amir al-Mu'mineen, but you will become like Miqdad. You'll not become Amir al-Mu'mineen, but you will become like Salman al-Farsi. You'll not become Amir al-Mu'mineen, but you will become like Abu Dhar. These companions of the Holy Imam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, they're not ma'soom, they're not infallibles. They're normal human beings like me and you. But they sacrifice themselves in such a way for the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam that their reward is that year in, year out, we remember the companions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That we're going through the 10 nights of Muharram. I've been asked to speak about the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. We must understand that the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein are specific. Imam Hussein himself states that the companions that I had, my father never had. The companions that I had, my brother Hassan never had. Why? Because the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein knew what the outcome of Karbala is. That had already been foretold by Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, that if you stay with me, death is certainty. Death is guaranteed if you stay with me. Yet, the companions remained steadfast. You had a very famous incident that on the night of Ashura, on the night of Muharram, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein turned the lights off, or the candles, and turned the camp dark, and stated that those of you who wish to leave, leave. Go and protect yourselves, save your lives, and at the same time, each one of you take a family member of mine with you. When Abdullah Hussein, after this, relit the candles, he saw that none of the companions of Abdullah Hussein had left. Why? Because they knew that success was only with Abu Abdullah Hussein and no one else. Today, if we wish, we have the famous saying of Amir al-Mu'mineen that there is no salawat, that there is no time or age where it is easy for my followers to live life. This is from two perspectives. One is being a follower of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The second is being a practicing Muslim. Being a practicing Muslim in today's day and age and today's society is very difficult. It is very difficult. This is our greatest jihad. Not with the way that society is. With the way that society is progressing. How do I see myself as a practicing Muslim? I see that society and Islam are at complete opposite ends. Now, the way I see that, Islam is not compatible with today's day and age. That is our misunderstanding. That is due to our lack of knowledge. If we look, like I stated once again, from the same member, in regards to knowledge, the amount of importance that Islam has placed upon important knowledge, no other religion, no other society has done the same. No other religion. When we look towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, what did the Ahlul Bayt have? The Ahlul Bayt had nothing but knowledge. Nothing but knowledge. That is why people flocked towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. It's exactly the same with our Maraji today. What do they have? Go to Karbala al-Najaf and go visit Sayyid Sistani. What does he have? How does he live? I mean, here we see the sofas, they have nice thick cushions. Man, you go and see the sofa or the chair that Sayyid Sistani sits on. It's very hard. It's just a slat of wood with carpet on it. Look at the way he lives his life. Yet, why is it that the Muslim world is still flocking towards him? Because of his knowledge. I remember I went to visit Sayyid Sistani in 2003 or 4. And I sat down with him and I explained to him that I'm from the West. And this, I think, was my 3rd or 4th year in the Hawza. I still hadn't told Sayyid Sistani that I'm actually in the Hawza. And he goes, well, I explained to him that I'm from London, born and raised in London. And he goes, my advice to you and for every youth from the West is to place importance upon knowledge. Because to a certain extent, his exact words are, up until university level, your education is free. And this, I know this is specific for the UK. That up until university, your education is free. And then he stated that even at university, the amount of support that the government gives you, no other country in the world gives you. Therefore, place importance upon knowledge. Take whatever you have. Seek knowledge from everywhere, so that it makes you a better Muslim. And he goes, these subjects that are being taught, have you ever thought about its relationship to Islam? And does it have a relationship to Islam or not? For example, when you look in mathematics, I remember when I was studying maths, I would curse al-Khwarizmi. Why? Because his trigonometry and algebra was so, for me it was very confusing, very difficult. And I would curse him. That I will never use trigonometry in my life. I'm never going to use it. So why are they teaching me trigonometry? I don't want to become a mathematician. But I'm still being told this. It's only later when I found out that al-Khwarizmi was a follower of Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam. That the concepts of mathematics were taught by the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Or when we look towards infinity, it's a mathematical term, infinity. It will only lead us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and no one else. You have people in the medical profession today. When you look towards medicine or the human body, anatomy, it makes you wonder about the might and, more important, at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, how many of us have understood the human body? And then you relate that to the sermon of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Now, you haven't understood yourself. How do you think you have understood Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And this is just about the human anatomy. I'm not even talking about the human mind or the human intellect or the human soul. That's completely different. I'm talking about the physical human autonomy. We haven't yet understood that. Yet today, we wish to turn people away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, away from Islam, on the basis that Islam is a backward religion. But when you look towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we see that the Ahlul Bayt are still the leaders of this world. Now, every time I study the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the hadith which they narrated 1400 years ago, today it still makes complete sense. There's a very famous sermon of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the first sermon of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Nahj al-Balagha, which is in regards to the creation of this world. Alhamdulillah alladhi la yablaghu midahtu al-qailun wa la yuhsina ma'ahu al-adun, continues on. Karl Marx, the founder of the Marxist movement, he states in regards to this sermon, because when I studied or when I read this sermon, I felt like it was either Ali who created this earth or Ali was present whilst this earth was being created. This is not a Muslim. Karl Marx, founder of the Marxist movement, a communist. Now, what do we know about Amir al-Mu'mineen? What is our belief in regards to Amir al-Mu'mineen? 90% of our youth only know about the bravery and the valor of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ask any of our youth, what do you know about Amir al-Mu'mineen? 90% of our youth will turn around and say, recite the poem, La fata illa ali la sayfa illa dhul faqar. That is what 90% will turn around and say, that there's no youth like Ali and there's no sword like Dhul Faqar. They'll talk about the valor and the bravery of Imam Ali in the battles of Badr, Uhud, Hunayn and Khaybar. Yet, how many of our children know about the knowledge of Amir al-Mu'mineen? How many of us have realized that Kofi Annan, who was the head of the United Nations, in his annual report advised, stating that if you wish to run a successful government, then you must follow the government of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, because that is the only government that has been run based upon justice. 1400 years ago. If it makes sense in the eyes of a non-Muslim, what is wrong with the Muslim world today? This is my question. That why is it that we are bending over according to what society dictates rather than what Islam dictates? Islam is not a religion. Islam is a way of life. Islam is a complete way of life. And I always give my own example. That I'm a diabetic. I was diagnosed with diabetes at a very young age. When I was diagnosed, all of a sudden my whole life changed, turned upside down. Now, from someone who was drinking and fizzy drinks and eating chocolates and snacks on a daily basis, all of a sudden everything stopped. At that age, I think I was 14 or 15 when I was diagnosed, I rebelled against this diabetes. Or should I say, I rebelled against the dietitian. Right? This dietitian has completely ruined my life. What's the point in living if I can't have a bar of chocolates every day? Or I can't have a can of Coke every day? As children, this is what we are attracted to. I always thought of my diabetes as a burden. I did not understand the illness and the complications. Therefore, I did not place importance upon it. But the minute I understood, or I started to understand my diabetes, that diabetes, which up until that moment was a burden, became a way of life for me. And now it became natural to me that I will now make sure that I take care in regards to what I eat, what I consume. I make sure that I take my medication on time. It became a way of life for me. Islam is exactly the same. That we haven't understood Islam. Therefore, Islam is a burden. But the minute I start to understand Islam, Islam will become a way of life for me. Today, I may have to set my alarm for my morning prayers, or even for my afternoon prayers. Constantly have to set reminders for my Islamic responsibilities. Why? Because I have yet not understood Islam. But the minute I understand Islam, I will stop whatever I'm doing the minute the time for namaz sets. Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battle of Siffin, in the heat of battle, he stopped battle for namaz. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, on the day of Ashura, in the heat of battle, he stopped for prayers. Why? Because Imam Hussein al-Islam was Islam. Because Amir al-Mu'mineen is Islam. Not Islam and Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, or Islam and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim Islam are not two different identities. Islam is the Ahlul Bayt alayhim Islam. This is that one thing that we must understand. That when we look towards Islam, we must understand that no one but the Ahlul Bayt must come in front of me when I look at Islam. No one. If I look towards Islam and I see others coming in front of me, know that my understanding of Islam is incomplete or incorrect. The minute I look towards Islam, I must look or I must see the Holy Prophet as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When I look towards Islam, I must see Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. When I look towards Islam, I must see Fatima al-Zahra salam alayhi. Why? Because they are the complete embodiment of Islam. That everything that we have is because of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Everything. And this is the mercy, this is what Allah means by completing His favors and mercy upon mankind. That He has completed His mercy upon us by giving us Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. That everything that we have, everything that we need, will be gotten from the doors of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is why the hadith of the Holy Prophet, Ana Madinatul Ilm wa Aliyun Ba'uha, makes sense. That I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate. Before entering anything, you must first enter the door. Therefore, if you wish to enter Islam, you must enter first through Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. There's a very, very famous hadith known as Silsilat al-Dhahab, the golden chain narration, which all and every single one of the narrators are the Ma'sumin alayhim salam. There are two variations of this hadith. The first is Kalimatu la ilaha illallah hisni, and the second is Wilayatu Ali ibn Abi Talib hisni. And I believe, my opinion is, but that both of them are correct. You have today people disagreeing or having debates on whether one hadith is correct or the other. I say both are correct on the basis that none of them go against Islam. Because if you wish to enter the fortress of La ilaha illallah, you must first enter the fortress of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Why? Because it is Ali ibn Abi Talib who has introduced Allah to the world. The understanding of Allah that we have, the understanding of our Creator that we have, is not through our own intellect or understanding. It is through the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. We stand up for prayer. Who did we learn how to pray from? Because the Quran does not teach me how to pray namaz. The Quran does not tell me that your Zuhrain prayers are 4 rakats each. The Quran does not teach me that my Maghrib namaz is 3 rakats and my Maghrib Isha is 4. The Quran only tells me the times for prayer. That you pray when? The sun is above your head, or when the sun has set. When the redness in the sky is starting to disappear and the darkness is appearing. That is when you pray your Maghrib, for example. Who taught me how to pray namaz? Who taught me to go into ruku and sujood? It is the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. The Quran teaches me about fasting. Does it teach me every rule in regards to fasting? All the Quran tells me is, you fast from sunrise to sunset, or layl. The Quran teaches me that you fast if you are able to. If you're sick or you are traveling, then do not fast, but fast on a later date when you're able to, or pay the equivalent of it. Does the Quran tell me every other aspect which invalidates my fast? No. Does the Quran tell me what intention I need to make before I fast? No. Does the Quran tell me what supplications I must recite before I keep my fast and when I open my fast? No. Who do I get all of this from? From the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. This is why the hadith also makes it Aliyun Qasimun Nar wal Jannah. That Ali is the divider of heaven and hell. And the example of that is that when I go to give an exam, if I have to give an English exam, the examiner who will mark my paper will not be a French teacher, will not be a teacher of maths, or will not be a teacher of science. The person who will mark, the examiner who will mark my English paper will be someone who knows the ins and outs of the English language. And no one else. Amir al-Mu'mineen knows the ins and outs of religion. Why? Because he is religion. Imam Hussaynia is religion, because he knows the ins and outs of religion, because he taught me what is religion and what isn't religion. It is the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam who taught us how to bow down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in what way. Therefore we must learn and strive to look and emulate the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. If we wish, I always give this example that how many of us, how long does it take us to prepare ourselves for namaz? That namaz which is the greatest and the most important of worship, your 5 daily prayers. How long does it take me to prepare myself for namaz? 5 minutes? 2 minutes? Maybe less. Why? Because in our mind, preparation for namaz is making sure that I'm in wudu. But what is more important is the mental preparation for namaz. Why? Because I'm standing in front of my Lord and my Creator. I guarantee that if we are able to mentally prepare ourselves for standing in front of our Lord, then we will also be trembling out of fear. The same way that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam would. That in namaz, we have numerous incidents that Amir al-Mu'mineen would be trembling out of fear when he would stand up for prayer. That Amir al-Mu'mineen's beard would be soaked because of his tears. Why? Because he's standing in front of his Lord. How many of us do the same? All we're looking at is how quick can I finish my prayer? Especially our youth. Salawat. How many of our youth, how quickly do you complete your prayers? I mean, there's no youth present today, but hopefully they'll start turning up. But how long does it take us? 5 minutes? But do we understand who we are reciting in front of? Do we understand that Allah is not in need of our prayers? But that we are in need of the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah will not, nothing will happen to Allah if we don't pray. But what will happen to us? That the greatest worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is namaz. Therefore, one lesson for today is that when we stand up for prayer, first take a step back, mentally prepare ourselves that who we are about to stand in front of. Rather than, as soon as it's adhan, we stand up for prayer. No. It is always the preparation. How do you prepare yourself for exams? How do you prepare yourselves for your daily responsibilities? Especially during the exam period. All of us have sat exams. During the exams, how do we prepare ourselves? We don't start preparing ourselves 5 minutes before my exam. We prepare ourselves days, months in advance for our examinations. Why? So that I get the best outcome. In regards to the namaz, is exactly the same. That mentally prepare ourselves. Why? Because namaz is the mi'raj of the mu'mins. The level that namaz takes us towards. Not just physically, but from a mental perspective. How many of us, if I was to question all of you today, that how do you feel once you have completed your namaz? No one asks themselves this question, but ask yourself today, that once you have completed your namaz, how do you feel? Everyone will have a different answer. And then ask yourself the same question tomorrow. I believe namaz is 10, 15 minutes? So, today, right now, you don't have that preparation. As soon as lecture finishes, we'll stand up for prayer. But tomorrow, for your dhuhr prayers, before dhuhr prayer sets in, take a step back. A good half an hour, 45 minutes before namaz sets in, start mentally preparing yourself for namaz. And then after you have completed that namaz, then question yourself, how do you feel? You will feel a whole world of a difference between the namaz that you recite now in 15 minutes and the namaz that you will recite tomorrow after your mental preparation. A whole world of difference. It is as if you've lost weight, mental weight, that stress, and the reward that you get. You will physically feel the rewards of that namaz. But then also know, I stated in that our sole purpose on this earth is the servitude and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The greatest worship of Allah is namaz. But if there is a life which is in danger in front of you, it is wajib for you to break that namaz. If you do not break that namaz, you have committed a sin. If there is a life in danger in front of you whilst you're in namaz, it is compulsory for you to break that namaz to save that man's life. From this you understand that the best form of worship is looking after fellow creation. And that is what the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have done. That Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, by sacrificing his life, saved all of humanity for eternity. That Islam that we are practicing today freely is because of the sacrifice of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. The namaz that we are doing today is because of the sacrifice of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And today, the moon of Muharram sets in. There's a very famous narration that on the night of the first of Muharram, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a specific angel that on the night of the first, he takes the blood-soaked shirt of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam and roams around the globe. And as soon as the first of Muharram sets in, our minds and our hearts naturally turn towards Karbala. Now today is the night of the first. Yeah, we see that there comes a time where Muawiyah dies and Yazid takes over the throne. He sends his letter to Marwan stating that seek the permission or the bay'at of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. There are two narrations. That one is that when Walid invited Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and gave him the news of the passing of Muawiyah and asked for the allegiance of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein to Yazid. The first aspect is that Imam Hussein stated that seeking allegiance is no small matter. This is not a matter to be taken in private. Announce it to the world and at the same time ask me. Then you all know the famous saying that a person like me can never give allegiance to a person like Yazid. But there's also one other narration which states that I am the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And Imam Hussain ended the conversation. This is the answer to all those, that the same way that my father Ali ibn Abi Talib did not give his allegiance to anyone else, his son Hussein ibn Ali would also never give bay'at to anyone else. This continues that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein returned to the house. When he came to the house, Bibi Zainab salamullah alayhi runs towards Imam Hussein and asks Imam Hussein that, oh brother Hussein, what has happened? Why were you called in the middle of the night? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein replies that my doubts were true, that Muawiyah has died and Yazid has taken over. Bibi Zainab salamullah alayhi asks Imam Hussein that, what was your reply? Imam Hussein, the narration says that Imam Hussein did not give an answer. In fact, he replied with a question. He goes, oh sister Zainab, what would your answer have been? Zainab replies, oh Hussein, now is not the time to test me. But if you are, then know that my answer would have been no. That I would never have given my allegiance to Yazid. Hearing this, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein went into sajda, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as he raised, he goes, oh sister, my answer was exactly the same. But oh sister Zainab, know that now that we have said no, our end is death. Bibi Zainab salamullah alayhi replies and says, oh Hussein, I already know. My mother's Fatima had already told me about the instances. But oh Hussein, know that you will never be alone. Oh Hussein, know that your sister will remain by your side up until the end. But oh Hussein, also know this, that there will always be two battlefronts. If you're going outside into the battle in Karbala, then know that I will conquer the battle of Sham. Oh Hussein, know that if you sacrifice your sons, oh Hussein, know that I am also sacrificing my sons. Oh Hussein, you will sacrifice a 6-month-old like Ali Asghar. Oh Hussein, I will sacrifice a 6-year-old like Sakina in Sham. Oh Hussein, but know that your lineage will continue, but my lineage will end. I only pray to Allah that people remember me the same way they remember you. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Radan biqadahi wa tasliman li amrih. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم اغنى كل فقير. اللهم اشف كل جائع. اللهم اكس كل عريان. اللهم اقض دين كل مدين. اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل عسير. اللهم اصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اقض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلوات.